What made you a star?
I don't know. I think it was a gradual thing, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I had a nice career of various jobs.
When I wake up in the morning, I adore the aroma of napalm. Robert Duvall will be permanently imprinted in your mind if you have ever heard this notorious statement or seen The Godfather. He is now entering the beginning of his life, the renowned actor who left a lasting impression playing cowboys, mafia attorneys, and military men long ago. But you will be filled with questions about what he has become now as he has aged. Are you interested in learning about the famous star's living situation? We have uncovered some shocking new information. Find out by continuing to watch. The place where Robert was supposed to be born had nothing to do with a life that would end up on film. The impending birth of his son would teach his strict father that forcing someone to live a certain way of life does not always result in their cooperation. The son of Admiral William Howard Duvall and Mildred Virginia Duvall, Robert was born on January 5, 1931, in San Diego, California. There was a lot of love and honor in his family and the military when he was born. William was a prominent United States Navy Rear Admiral from Virginia, and his mother, Mildred, was an amateur actress. With much excitement and expectation, they brought their second son, the second of three, into the world. Little did they realize that this little bundle of joy would one day change their lives and the world as they knew it. He was a youngster who witnessed the life of naval commanders directly, having grown up in a home influenced by military discipline. Given his history, a military uniform was already in his possession. All that was required of him was curiosity and self-control. Robert lacked all of those qualities. In spite of the limitations that life inevitably imposed on him, Robert Duvall cultivated an attitude that never lets up. The world-famous celebrity would one day experience the results of such outlook. If you stick around to the very end, you'll be astounded by the fortune it gave him at the pinnacle of his life. Robert's maternal lineage was highly influential, while his paternal lineage was that of a highly distinguished Navy commander and an ancestor of the early American pioneer Maureen Duvall. Among Robert's ancestors was Robert E. Lee, an American Civil War general, and his mother was a member of the Virginia Lee family. A number of people knew Robert. Being Navy brats was a stereotype that he and his siblings exemplified. There was a strong emphasis on spirituality and religious devotion in his family's home life. Observance of religious rituals was highly valued by the Duvall family. Although Duvall's mother identified as a Christian Science, his father was a devout Methodist. So Christian Science was the religious framework within which Robert and his siblings were brought up. Robert didn't particularly enjoy coming to church as a young child, even though he grew up in a household that encouraged a deep relationship to his religious history. He has not abandoned his faith, but he no longer attends services. Robert Duvall was born in San Diego, although he spent much of his childhood in Annapolis, Maryland, a city famous for being the site of the United States Naval Academy, which is highly regarded. Robert, as a young man, attended the Severn School in neighboring Severna Park, Maryland, and then went on to the Principia in St. Louis, Missouri for his graduate year. Expectations that he would join the military were growing at this stage of his life. However, Robert persisted in going against his father's wishes so that he may become an actor. But why perform? Why was he so set on severing ties with his naval father and living a life apart from the comfortable path he had been led? It seems that Mildred Virginia Duvall's genes are stronger than average when it comes to her chosen profession. After all, it's no surprise that success follows in her family's footsteps. What was the catalyst that sent Robert Duvall careening into the acting industry? An unexpected meeting with Frank Parker, a danseur and ex-dancer who had performed alongside the great Anna Pavlova, acted as fate's intervening hand. Richard was inspired by Frank Parker's love of the theater. Jack Duvall, Robert's younger brother, says that when Robert realized he loved acting, it was like a switch was flicked. After Robert accepted that he was awful at everything but acting and struggled mightily in school, the road to becoming an actor became more apparent to him. He then embarked on his journey into the realm of theater. His father had wanted him to study politics in college, but he went to Principia College in Elsa, Illinois, to pursue a degree in the performing arts instead. Robert had a fiery enthusiasm for the theater even as an undergraduate. Thus, he embarked on his initial major achievement by enrolling in the Gateway Playhouse, a summer theater on Long Island, New York that is run by Equity. It was here that he stepped foot on stage for the first time, making what was essentially his theatrical debut. For Robert Duvall, this was the beginning of his career as an actor. Preceding his college graduation in 1952, Robert made a splash on stage at the Gateway Theater in a production of Laughter in the Stars, an adaptation of the cherished classic The Little Prince. Richard, in the role of the pilot, mesmerized the audience and displayed his developing acting chops. After completing his BA in acting in 1953 at the age of 21, Robert was officially a bachelor. Admiral William Howard Duvall was still trying to make sense of the life his son had created for himself when Robert once again went against his father's wishes. Robert opted to join the U.S. Army after finishing college, August 19, 1953, August 20, 1954, instead of the Navy after the Korean War, in order to serve his country. He proved his dedication to duty and patriotism by serving with distinction against his father's objections. Because he was so dedicated to his service, he left the Army with the rank of Private First Class. According to some accounts, he was honorably discharged after serving 2 years in what is now Fort Eisenhower, Camp Gordon, Georgia. Serving in the military had a great impact on him, molding his character and teaching him the importance of honor and sacrifice. Furthermore, these encounters will mold his degree of creativity and professionalism, which he would thereafter use to his outstanding performance in military films and roles. There was never a moment when Richard's love for acting diminished while serving in the Army. Just a better platform to showcase his talent, which he duly accomplished. Robert would soon return to school to polish his acting abilities, devoting himself to the study of theater while gaining insight from more seasoned professors. He left the service and used his GI Bill benefits to attend New York City's prestigious neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater, where he could finally live out his dreams. He persisted with his studies at the theater school during the 1955 winter. Notable alumni from his time there include Dustin Hoffman, James Caan, and Gene Hackman, among others. Robert, who aspires to be a professional actor, managed the rigors of theater school alongside his day-to-day responsibilities. Robert worked his way out of poverty by taking a job as a post office clerk in Manhattan, even though he was born into a middle-class family. Embracing his manhood and fighting for his dreams must have cost him something. Even though Robert's father found it difficult to embrace his son's unconventional career path, Robert's parents encouraged him to pursue acting nevertheless. And it was in those early days that Robert formed connections with Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman that would last a lifetime. The relationships they formed as a result of their common struggles as performers would last a lifetime. Robert was ultra-disciplined and gave 110% to everything he did after he returned to acting school. In his time as an undergraduate, he began his career at the Gateway Playhouse. After leaving due to the war, he returned to re-enroll there. While attending both theatrical schools, Robert juggled their respective curricula and practices. He was definitely acting like a beast. A guy with a purpose, he was. A total of 26 plays starring Robert Duvall were staged at the Gateway Playhouse from 1955 to 1959. Robert Duvall's acting chops were on full display in those roles, which paved the way for his subsequent stage and cinematic triumphs. In William Burney and Howard Richardson's Dark of the Moon, which took place in September 1955, Robert Duvall played the role of John the Witch Boy. In a 1955 revival of the play, Robert would reprise his critically lauded role as the Witch Boy, as mentioned in the playbill for Dark of the Moon. Everyone was so excited to see him perform that his show quickly became a must-see. Through a number of parts, Robert Duvall maintained his impressive acting career. In 1956, his third season with the team, he had a number of spectacular performances. In July 1956, he played Max Halliday in Dial M for Murder by Frederick Knott. In August of the same year, he played Virgil Blessing in Bus Stop by Inge and Clive Mortimer in I Am a Camera by John Van Druten. Everyone could see that Richard was very committed to his art, and his outstanding performances garnered him accolades from the playhouse and the crowd, leading to his being referred to as an audience favorite in the playbills. He was dedicated to his acting training in addition to his natural skill. It didn't take long for word to spread that he had spent the winter before studying acting in New York's neighborhood playhouse under Sandy Meisner's guidance. The legendary Robert Duvall's wealth of acting experience and talent became known. In 1957, something happened that would later spark his career in theater. Robert had just completed a two-part performance in July of that year, portraying Mr. Maher in Witness for the Prosecution by Agatha Christie and Hector in Thieves' Carnival by Jean Anouilh. His mesmerizing performance and nuanced portrayal left the playhouse directors in awe, and they were willing to cast him in another role. For the acclaimed actor, the part was a watershed moment that changed the course of his career on stage and beyond. In Arthur Miller's famous play A View from the Bridge, he played the role of Eddie Carbone. The production ran from July 30th to August 3rd, 1957, and Richard gave a mesmerizing performance as Eddie. Acclaimed playwright Arthur Miller was in attendance, which gave him the opportunity to meet influential people in the industry who were impressed by his extraordinary talent. This encounter changed Robert's life. 2 months later, he landed a spectacular lead role in the Naked City TV series. A View from the Bridge, in which he reprised the character of Eddie Carbone, would later bring him further renown and appreciation, and his masterful performance in this role would set him on yet another successful trajectory. He received an Obie Award in 1965 for the hypnotic portrayal. So, how exactly did Robert Duvall make the jump to television? Although he was most known for his stage work and off-Broadway beginnings, Duvall, like many performers of his day, was a regular guest star on television. At every turn, he was actually experiencing the fruition of his prayers. During the 1960s, Robert Duvall became a popular guest star in action, suspense, detective, and crime dramas. He made his television debut on Armstrong Circle Theater, starring in the riveting episode The Jailbreak. But Robert was certain he hadn't made his long-awaited film debut. When that part of his goal fell through, he didn't let it discourage him. Instead, he focused on the larger picture, bringing his whole heart to every performance he did, whether it was on stage or screen. And it was fruitful. A regular on popular series like Route 66 and Naked City, Robert also left his imprint on other notable small-screen dramas like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Untouchables, The Twilight Zone, and The Virginian. And he continued to be a familiar face on popular television shows. One day, he made his big-screen debut and won a slew of awards. To Kill a Mockingbird, Robert Duvall's 1962 film debut, was a critically acclaimed portrayal of Boo Radley. The performance was a masterclass, captivating both audiences and critics with its depth. Richard's interpretation of the mysterious character began a remarkable cinematic journey for Duvall, and it set the stage for a string of outstanding films that would further establish his reputation as a formidable talent in the industry. Robert and his co-star put a lot of their talent into the picture, which led to its Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar win and Best Picture nomination. Intriguingly, Robert Duvall's friendship with playwright Horton Foote, which began during a 1957 play production, led to Duvall's casting in the film adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird, and the rest is history. Starting with his mesmerizing Boo Radley debut, Robert Duvall showcased his incredible range and skill as an actor with a string of outstanding performances. From the start of his career, Robert Duvall was cast in widely viewed productions. Now, as he entered the world of cinema, He quickly established himself as a rising star in the industry, and his career continued to soar when he landed a role in 3 episodes of the immensely popular series The Fugitive in 1963. Not long after that, he became a household name in Hollywood, landing roles like Bullet in the 1968 Steve McQueen smash hit, where he brought nuance to the cast. In 1969, he proved his versatility once again, co-starring with John Wayne in the legendary Western True Grit, further cementing his position as a major player in Hollywood. He seemed to have a string of fortunate breaks. Playing Major Frank Burns in the hit 1970 TV series M***S**H**, followed Duvall's role in True Grit. He was in the midst of an acting binge, taking on gig after gig. Despite his heavy workload, he never scrimped on acting quality, instead proving time and again that he could effortlessly switch between film and television with his captivating performances. Robert Duvall still managed to find love despite his incredibly rigorous schedule as an actor who was always striving to improve himself. Robert managed to love and not give up on love despite the fact that his life would be a succession of wild ups and downs. During the time when Robert achieved a big career milestone, on the set of To Kill a Mockingbird, he fell in love. Or maybe we should say, made time for love for the first time. Barbara Benjamin was the first wife of Richard. They met while she was dancing on the Jackie Gleason show while filming To Kill a Mockingbird. They fell in love and dated for 2 years. They were a showbiz couple because she had also appeared in films like Guys and Dolls in 1955 and The Courtship of Eddie's Father in 1963 using the name Barbara Brent. They lived happily together with the 2 daughters Barbara had from her previous marriage. 10 years later, the stars no longer aligned, and they decided to get a divorce. They were married from 1964 to 1975, but never had children together. Robert Duvall's love story began a year earlier when the legendary actor met Gale Youngs while they were both co-starring in the Broadway production of American Buffalo with John Savage, who was Young's brother. In 1982, 7 years after his marriage ended, Robert decided to give love another serious chance. He married Gale Youngs. At the time, Gale was also an aspiring actress. Their conversations sparked an initial spark that eventually evolved into a passionate romance. The enchanting wedding ceremony that Youngs and Robert had on August 1, 1982, confirmed their love after a year of dating that began in January 1981. The beauty of their love was that it was fleeting. As a result of Robert and Gale's marriage, Robert got very close to his co-star, John Savage, and the two became brothers-in-law. Nevertheless, their journey as a married couple was not without its difficulties, and after 3 years of marriage, they made the difficult choice to divorce. After a long and respectful marriage, Duvall and Youngs decided to go their own ways in 1985. Fans think they had wonderful memories as husband and wife, even if their time together was cut short due to circumstances. There was no offspring from his third marriage to Gale Youngs, as there had been from his first. Robert was patient and allowed himself to recover before becoming involved with another woman. He is not the kind to rush into commitments. Neither love nor fortune were ever on his side. A dancer captivated Robert in July 1989. Sharon Brophy was her name. Their romance started in 1986 in New York City, where they happened to cross paths during a tango lesson. Robert eventually came around to the idea of taking classes in order to learn the complex moves of Tango Argentino, a Broadway show that featured Sharon as both a dancer and a teacher. Everyone who watched could see the profound chemistry they formed, and it wasn't limited to the dance floor. A fellow dancer once said that Robert and Sharon Brophy made a nice couple. Brophy and Duvall exchanged vows on May 1, 1991, following a year-long romance that strengthened their bond. They lived through a symphony of love and passion for the following 4 years, but the connection wasn't strong enough. Problems emerged, and they ended their lovely relationship in 1996. Their union did not produce any offspring. To everyone's surprise, Robert Duvall's fourth marriage came about after a decade. Nobody, not even Robert, anticipated it. The Duvalls were married in 2005. Luciana Pedraza was the bride. In 1997 in Argentina, fate brought them together in the most unlikely of settings, a flower store that had just closed. After Robert was unsuccessful at a local florist, he found the woman who would later become his wife at a neighboring bakery. Since he never would have met Luciana if that random incident hadn't happened, Robert feels grateful for it now. Robert and Luciana had a lovely relationship and discovered common ground despite their 41-year age difference. Their friendship, which started 8 years ago, has endured because of the deep affection and respect that each of them has for the other. Beyond their personal lives, Robert Duvall and the Argentine beauty worked together professionally in the film Assassination Tango, where they played various parts. The majority of the filming took place in Buenos Aires, and they were all involved in its production, direction, and acting. Because they had so much in common, their love for one another deepened with each passing day. They are still married and enjoy spending time together as a pair. One of their favorite pastimes is dancing Argentine tango at Richard's Tango Studios in both Argentina and the U.S. Robert and his wife both love to be physically strong, and they train in martial arts and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. They also love to dance the tango. Their mutual interests highlight how close they are as a couple and may perhaps be the key to their long-term relationship. Luciana followed in the footsteps of her predecessors when it came to bearing children for Robert Duvall, The Godfather and Apocalypse. Now, both released in the 1970s, were Robert Duvall's breakout performances and helped propel him to Hollywood stardom. The Godfather starred Robert Duvall as Tom Hagen, the consigliere and lawyer for the Corleone family. Even though Tom was not legally a man, he was a valued counselor to Vito and Michael Corleone and had a significant impact on their lives. Richard Duvall embodied the part with an air of cool assurance and maturity. Even though Robert Duvall is receiving universal acclaim for his portrayal of Tom Hagen, did you know that he almost didn't get the part? The casting of Robert Duvall in The Godfather was entirely coincidental, according to Duvall. On the set of 1969's The Rain People, he met Francis Ford Coppola while filling in for an actor who had recently been dismissed. His story goes like this. He was just placed on when filming of The Godfather began. If the previous actor hadn't been let go from The Rain People and he hadn't been on set, he thinks it never would have occurred. After a few years, Robert's portrayal of Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore in Apocalypse Now was once again a career-defining role for him. He played the role of the enthusiastic air cavalry commander who revels in the morning scent of napalm to legendary proportions. As the outrageous Kilgore, he said some of the most famous lines in cinematic history. His wild, erratic performance showcased his ability to play against type and steal the show. Throughout the 80s, he stuck to parts that let him delve deep into dramatic characters. He made his film debut in the 1983 suspense flick The Pursuit of D.M. Cooper. Robert had the role of cattle drove Gus McCrae in the TV miniseries Lonesome Dove the next year. He was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor for his remarkable performance. Lonesome Dove, a 1989 television western starring Robert Duvall as Augustus Gus McCrae, was nominated for a Best Actor Emmy. The miniseries was immensely popular and won several Emmys. Robert Duvall and Tommy Lee Jones, according to their co-stars, had great chemistry and gave their roles depth. In the military trial drama A Few Good Men, 1989, he re-teamed with Jack Nicholson. The iconic You Can't Handle the Truth one-line speech was delivered by Duvall as Lieutenant Colonel Nathan R. Jessup. Another Emmy nomination came his way for his performance. Even though he was appearing in fewer films in the early 1990s, Robert Duvall's noteworthy supporting parts persisted. Both Rambling Rose, 1991, and Falling Down, 1993, were critically acclaimed films in which he starred. The Thin Blue Lie, a beloved wrestling film from 1993, had Robert Duvall in a pivotal role. He made a strong impression toward the close of the decade, acting in 3 films that were nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. 1997's The Apostle, in which he also served as director and writer, A Civil Action, and 1998's Deep Impact. As a Southern pastor battling his religion, Duvall played the part in The Apostle. He received his 3rd Best Actor nomination for his emotionally charged performance. As the years have passed, Robert Duvall has solidified his position as one of the most celebrated and adaptable performers in Hollywood. He has amassed an extraordinary body of work comparable to any in cinema by selecting roles with several layers of complexity and investing himself completely in each character. Truly, he was that guy. It appears like Robert Duvall is dealing with a lot, and that is making all of his fans nervous. As he approaches his mid-90s, the renowned actor admits that reaching 90 isn't something he enjoys. Even while he acknowledges the importance of his health and expresses gratitude to his wife Luciana, he is extremely well cared for. Robert Duvall lives a happy but miserable existence as he approaches the peak of his career. Robert Duvall yearns for the joys of fatherhood and blames his infertility on his failure to conceive with any of his women, past or present. There is a deep and unmet hunger within him to share the joys and trials of motherhood, despite his achievements and contentment in other areas of life. Robert deeply understands the power of motherhood to shape an individual's character and leave a lasting impression. He had a great time doing it with his parents and still has faith that he will be able to fulfill his lifelong desire of being a parent. Neither Robert nor anybody else associated with him ever struggled with alcoholism. By avoiding anything that may make him want to find a hangover remedy, he managed to avoid such situations. He was quite cautious not to misuse substances throughout his peak. Could it be that that was the key to his excellent health? He almost never got into a car accident or had an incident at home. When questioned about the most excruciating agony he had ever endured, he reminisced about the day he fractured his pelvis in the 1970s. He admitted to me that he broke my pelvis when he rode his stepdaughter's pony unbridled into the woods. Robert Duvall keeps surprising everyone, even though his management team quickly questioned allegations of a stroke and other health problems. He has 2 films coming out on Netflix in 2022, The Pale Blue Eye and Hustle, and is still very much involved in the film industry, which is rather incredible considering he will be 90 years old. Everyone, from fans to onlookers, has been amazed by the iconic actor's looks. No one could have predicted Robert's continued vigor, seeming agility, and general health. They were all taken aback. Overcoming all expectations and reports of bad health, Robert looks to be immaculately cared for, even though years have passed. His capacity to keep his physical and mental abilities at such an elderly age has been demonstrated by his perseverance and ongoing presence in the spotlight. Robert appears weak from old age, but his resilience and the careful attention he gets make him an inspiration. Robert Duvall may be getting on in years, but he still has a keen demeanor, a twinkle in his eye, and a smart mind. Much obliged for your time. Click the next video that appears on your screen right now to see more exciting stories that reveal the truth behind your favorite characters.